Welcome to ACP, the Amazon Connect podcast. This is the show that focuses on Amazon Connect and related technologies. I'm your host, Tom Morgan, and I'm joined as usual by my co-host, AWS Solution Architect and Contact Center Consultant, Alex Baker, for a special episode focused on AWS reInvent. We are also joined direct from the reInvent show floor in Vegas by Nancy Van Delist, one of our US colleagues. Find out more about Cloud Interact by visiting us at cloudinteract.io. It's time for another ACP. I'm here, Alex is here, and this week it's reInvent. It's a busy week for everyone in the AWS world and also in the Amazon Connect world. But luckily for all of us, Alex is here to walk us through it. Hello, Alex. How are you? Have you been keeping up to date with everything that's been going on?
Hi, Tom. Yeah, good. Thank you. Hopefully, I think probably should give a shout out to one person from AWS at Anchor who has a good Amazon Connect What's New page on LinkedIn. But he put a good post up, which we've sort of pinched the content of. It just summarizes really neatly all of the Amazon Connect related announcements that have been made so far. If I'm honest, haven't had masses of time to sort of go through them and digest them because it's been over the last couple of days. But let's do it now. Let's talk through them, give our first thoughts about everything. We can provide all the links to the documentation and everything. But plenty to talk about.
There is plenty to talk about. It's interesting. I was thinking about this. Like I thought maybe the days of, as we sort of came back to big conferences again, I was not sure whether the days of lots of announcements at conferences were coming back and whether, like, it feels like sometimes the marketing dictates that these things come out just as soon as they're ready for that sort of steady drumbeat. But actually, I mean, the scale of the things we're going to talk about today actually underlines one of the other sort of problems, I suppose, with these kind of week-long conferences is that we don't all get to take a week off just because reInvent's on. And that's the problem sometimes, isn't it? It's a challenge to stay just up to date with what's going on and what's new. So yeah, definitely good to have those kind of collections, if you like, to go through. So yeah, thanks, Anchor. That's really good.
Yeah, I'm not sure that we're sort of, what was the scheduling of the podcast? We may not have mentioned some of the other announcements prior to reInvent before we put this out, but just in the run up to December, there have been a few quite interesting ones as well, which aren't mentioned as a part of the reInvent announcement. So it's kind of like Christmas has come early. Thanks very much, AWS.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely the festive season. And if you're worried that you are missing out because you don't know about those things Alex is talking about, I'm sure we will cover them in kind of future episodes going into sort of the January, February, which tends to be a bit of a tech doldrums as well. That, it's like the pace of announcements dries up a little bit in January because everyone is kind of recovering after Christmas. So that might be a good time to go back in time and just cover off some of the December things. But let's focus on this week. Let's focus on reInvent. So, Alex, where are you taking us first?
Yeah, well, let's take a look at each of them in turn. So the first one is Amazon Connect now makes it easier to collect sensitive customer data within chats. Let's see what it actually says in the documentation. So
I think what they mean is like it makes it easier to knowingly collect sensitive data or like do something sensible with the sensitive data you're collecting. Yes. I think that's right.
Good clarification there, actually. Yeah. So one of the points there is that so you can now support inline chat interactions such as processing payments, updating customer information, or collecting customer data without requiring the customer to switch channels or navigate to another page on your website. But yeah, like you say, I think that the key takeaway is not the collection of it, it's probably they're doing it in a safe and compliant manner.
Yeah, and this is one of those things where I think traditionally you might have asked the customer to go to like a website where you could kind of put their data in there and know it was secure and kind of know it was safe and do it that way. I think what they're trying to do is build it more into the kind of UI builder that agents have, like the option, if you like, in a view to say like this view has sensitive data on it. So that means that it gets stored differently. It's compliant with your, data protection, your privacy standards. And then you can do something to it sort of securely, send it off and save it somewhere so it doesn't get kept. It's probably worth looking at whether or not you can kind of simplify your process by, getting rid of some of these third-party services. As Amazon Connect evolves, some of these third-party services will overlap with what the product then does in-house. It's always good to kind of reevaluate all the things.
Yeah, definitely. And I guess You may also get sort of third-party providers of solutions might use some of these new features to enhance what they've already got. I mean, I'm thinking that the payment provider being mentioned.
Mm.
It would be quite nice if you weren't already supporting payments in chat, being able to do that in a more secure manner. And we know there are a few good partners out there that do that sort of fully PCI compliant payment solution.
Yeah, definitely. I hadn't thought of that. Doesn't have to be you that puts it into the view. So yeah, that's cool. All right.
So that one sounds like, quite a useful one. We've got, as you might expect, there are a few which mention generative AI.
Just a few AI things this year.
Just a few. So the first one of those to mention is Amazon Connect launches generative AI powered self-service with Amazon Q in Connect. So we know about Amazon Q. We've touched on that in past episodes. The announcement is sort of because we know that Q has previously been sort of agent side. So you surfaced Amazon Q within your CCP, within your agent desktop, and it's allowed the agent to be served sort of useful information on the basis of what's being discussed in the conversation. Now, what it seems from this latest one is that it's supporting the end customer self-service interaction within your IVR and also within digital channels it mentions, so within chat, for example. They say that businesses can augment their existing self-service experiences with generative AI capabilities. And what I noticed in one of the screenshots is there's some interesting things around bringing Lex a bit more sort of native into Connect. But the thing I noticed in the screenshot was that you have this Amazon Q intent by the looks of it. So maybe a bit of a, you've got your standard intents that you've defined already, but perhaps you can introduce this Amazon Q intent, which might allow the customer to go a bit more free form and discuss and talk about things that might not be defined in your set intents already.
Okay. This is kind of really interesting because when Amazon Q first came out, right, in Connect, it was just for agent support. It was kind of behind the scenes giving advice to agents. And at the time, I thought that's quite sensible, right? Because that is Amazon Connect, like adding AI to their product, but not in a scary way for like customers, and not in a way that opens them up to all the sort of weird and wonderful things that AI can do. All of that stuff might happen, but it only happens to your agents. So like it's damage limiting, right? This is opening up that to say, actually, we're going to offer this to your end customers as well, or allow you to offer it to your end customers, which is sort of tells me either that they are confident enough with what Amazon Q is doing that they no longer want essentially either partners or you take on that responsibility of doing the AI chat with your customer, or they just want to grow that AI usage, and this is a very natural place to do it because I'd say that's a really busy area right now, isn't it? Like self-service bots, not just for information but for action as well. And so you've got choices. You could do it yourself, you could do it with a partner, you could do it with off-the-shelf tooling, or you could do it natively in Amazon Connect. So I think choice is good, but I think I'm really surprised in a good way. I think that they are taking this what feels like a fairly big step, because if it goes wrong now, it's Amazon Q's fault. It's not the partner, your IT team. I toggled this switch in my first party software and the bot went crazy, and now in my customer, you know what I mean? Like if it does it to agents, fine. It's just a bit annoying. Do it to customers, and then it can be revenue impacting. So
that's the thing, isn't it? You're really sort of releasing it into the wild, aren't you? And you don't have that kind of guardrail that your agents or your staff put in place around the AI and that filtering to say that actually I'm getting some weird responses back from this. Those weird responses, if there are any, are going to be presented straight to your customers. One thing, and we're sort of skipping along a bit later on into the list, but one of the other announcements is that Amazon Connect launches AI guardrails for Amazon Q in Connect. So you might deduce from that they're making it available to the end customer, but also you can put some guardrails in place and hopefully avoid some of those embarrassing situations that went viral around, making the bot give you a free car or whatever that one in the States.
That's super interesting, because now it's back to being your fault.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Did you
it's
put your
like,
guardrails in place?
yeah, exactly right. Were your guardrails good enough? And so actually, that is kind of interesting. So having thought, like, I was worried momentarily that like all the big partner ecosystem we have of bot builders and stuff like that would slowly drain away. I don't think that's going to be true at all, because I don't think even if you wanted to do this first party, I think a lot of companies would get a little bit scared off by having to think about guardrails yourself, and would bring in a partner with experience to kind of go through where guardrails can help, and sort of how they should be implemented. Otherwise, it's a bit trial and error, and that's a bit risky at customer level. But I'm sure there's ways of doing this, and running tests and A/B testing, doing it on small groups of people, and all that sort of stuff. But then it kind of comes back to, are you trying to be a tech company, or are you trying to run a contact center?
Yeah, definitely. I'm interested in seeing how performant it is as well. So I know we've had instances with our own customers where we've been setting up the bot experiences based around Bedrock, where sometimes it's coming back with some incredible responses, and it feels like it's getting such a good understanding of the general knowledge base that you're pointing it at. But sometimes we found it can be a little bit slow to put together that response, which we've been looking at it for one customer recently in a chat context. When you bring it into the voice channel, that's obviously a bit more sensitive to the real-time nature of the responses. So yeah, interested
Yeah,
to give it a
it
try.
is, but it is, but it's also really important in the chat thing. Like, and I know we talked about this as well. Like, the tolerance for delay is very low when
Mhm.
talking, even on chat and voice, talking to bots. So yeah, 100%. It is going to be interesting to see how that sort of survive. How it sort of copes in the talking to customers. Because yeah, like I say, customers have a fairly low tolerance for that sort of stuff.
Yeah, understandably so. A couple of other things just to pull from the documentation there. This seamless transition to a customer service agent is mentioned, which
Makes
always I
sense.
think is
Yeah,
really
it's a good idea.
important to
Yeah.
have that full conversation context where the customer
Definitely.
has interacted with the self-service using Q. Then the agent should be able to see that full context. Maybe also that will help with what we mentioned around those slightly odd responses if the agent is being made aware of those. Or I'm sure you could filter that into your reporting as well and do some monitoring of your responses and the way the bot is handling things.
Mm.
That's all quite useful.
Yeah, it'd be really interesting to see how that gets presented to agents, like whether it comes in as part of the whisper flow. Because ideally, your agent wants to have half a minute, like, before accepting the call, if it's been a long interaction, and just to kind of like get up to speed. But I don't know if that's the thing, so we'll see.
Yeah, maybe something that's a really good point. Maybe you could build it into if you're using step-by-step guides as a part of the sort of general flow of the interaction. The agent gets presented with all the context, and you just tell the customer that you're taking a bit of time to review it. I know I've had that on customer service calls lately where they've
Mm.
said, "Oh, just give me a few minutes to review your case."
Yes, and I can't work out if I prefer that or don't prefer it. Would I rather stay in a queue waiting for 2.5 minutes, or do I want to only keep a half a minute and then get answered and immediately put on hold? I'm not really sure. Probably. Oh, I don't know. Like, everyone's different, but yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
interesting.
interested to hear what people's thoughts are on that. Certainly.
Yeah, yeah.
What
Cool.
else have we got? Like I said, we'll come on to a couple more related announcements and Gen AI stuff in a moment. The next one on the list though is WhatsApp. WhatsApp supports Amazon Connect supports WhatsApp business messaging. Really good to hear that that's come along.
Yeah,
Um,
that's a big one, isn't it? That's obviously super popular around the world. I mean, even
yeah,
more so than the UK. I mean, it's pretty popular in the UK, but some parts of the world, it's like the only communication channel. So yeah, really good.
and I think most of our customers have asked at some point, can you do WhatsApp? And it's always been yeah, we probably can. We'll custom develop something. Whereas now it's brought more in house, more native.
Yeah,
A couple of
that's
the
cool. Good to
key
see.
points in there. So Amazon Connect supports WhatsApp business messaging, delivering personalized experiences to your customer using rich
Yeah,
messaging features, inline images and videos, list messages and quick replies. Allow your customers to browse product recommendations, check order status, or schedule appointments.
yeah. I wonder if it's all tied. I presume, but that's maybe a guess. I'm just sort of speed reading because all of this stuff is new to all of us. It looks like it uses the same kind of flows and things. So you could tie it in with what we were just talking about using Q for kind of self-service. You could have that whole thing we were just talking about. You could deliver through WhatsApp, not just chat, which is interesting.
Yeah,
as well.
Yeah, agreed. And it's always been a good thing in that your Connect contact flows are useful for all of your channels. So you can set up an experience which will work for voice, will work for chat, and now WhatsApp if you want to.
Yep. And it looks like it's available quite a few places. So it's available in the US, in Europe, but only London and Frankfurt. So I guess that covers Germany nicely. And then the rest of the EU
APA as
and
well.
London and APAC in Singapore. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a pretty good availability straight away with that one. That's really good.
That's nice.
What else have we got? Amazon Connect launches simplified conversational AI bot creation. And this was, I briefly alluded to it in the previous one, but it's making it easier to create and edit your bots within the Connect UI. So it's still powered by Lex under the hood, but it's making it a bit more sort of familiar in that same UI, probably opening up to, your contact center administrators that may not have had full AWS access. It's nice to have it if they're going to be doing things like changing and tweaking the bot, then it's nice to have it in the Connect UI so they can do everything within that familiar UI page.
Yeah, and this is kind of really smart. I don't think it'll excite you loads if you're like big into this world already of Connect and Lex. I don't think there's like any like really new technological breakthrough here. I think this feels much more like it's almost like a marketing led compete thing. It's like all these other, solutions have bot builder stuff in the contact center now because of AI. And obviously Connect have that because they support Lexbox. Lexbox has it over there. But like if you're a contact center owner, you only know Connect, you don't know AWS. Like you don't look outside that bubble, right? So bring some of that stuff in, expose it. I don't think, like I say, I don't think it's like massively new tech, but putting it in Connect is really smart because it means that when you're then talking about Connect versus some other platform, it's a very easy, like, yep, we also have drag and drop, like one-click bot creation. So that's kind of smart.
Yeah, it's another thing that our customers have mentioned to us in the past. It's not a deal breaker, but your bots sort of live within that world of creating your contact flows almost. So it's nice to have it all available within that one area.
It's part of that general abstraction of the contact center away from IT provision, right? So it's another area where currently you're very reliant on IT time and expertise to get stuff done. It's a bit more of that pushing it down to like the people in your company who understand the business and how the business works and empowering them to put the tooling in place to be more efficient, without sort of needing that expert time from IT. So it's interesting.
Easier to do things within your contact flow within a smaller number of flow blocks. So we'll have to take a look at that one. That sounds quite interesting.
Yeah. But then, does that require you to have profiles and use profiles and cases? It looks like it, doesn't it? And then if you want to use your own CRM and do differently, then you're back into sort of customized writing lambdas outside the box, essentially, which makes sense. The things in the box work with the things in the box, but they're extensible as well if you want to.
Yeah. The next one, what have we got? Amazon Connect Contact Lens launches built-in dashboards to analyze conversational AI bot performance.
So this is the other piece of that puzzle, isn't it? How do you know how bad your bots are being to your customers? Yep. Or how useful. So yeah.
It makes total sense though, doesn't it? It's bringing the core functionality within the main Connect UI. Actually, yes, it's good that they've considered the reporting part of it as well. I'm sure there's still scope for, as we've talked about this in the past, and also had sort of partners on to talk about expanding your reporting capabilities outside of what's available out of the box, but being able to use that new capability and visualize it all in the same place is powerful. So you're not then forced to kind of create your custom reports if you don't need to.
Yeah, definitely. And it definitely feels like a smart move to release all this stuff together and not drip it out like by, releasing the conversational AI bot first and then a bit later with the guardrails and a bit later with the reporting. Doing it all at once is, yes, you've got all the things you need to sort of do this responsibly. That's really good.
Interesting. A lot of this stuff arguably is nibbling away at some of the capabilities of third-party vendors slowly. So it's interesting to see. I mean, you'd always expect it that we've said in the past AWS are really good at expanding and releasing new functionality. But yeah, on the flip side, it does it starts taking over some of the capabilities that were the USPs of third-party vendors, perhaps.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's sort of the game when you're a partner, isn't it? Like you are filling the gaps, and AWS know those gaps are there too, and it just comes down to a sort of a decision on what's worth it for them to fill, and what's best to leave for partners. And I think anything involving AI right now is game. So yeah.
Yes, yeah, agreed. Anything else just to highlight on there? So it seems like it's all sort of within the reporting and analytics section of the Connect UI. So should be fairly familiar in terms of how to use it. You can see how your customers communicate their issues, the most common contact reasons, and the outcomes of the interaction. And then, as we mentioned, you're sort of within the Connect dashboard already, so you can very quickly go back to your bot management and implement any changes that you see that are necessary from the reporting.
Be interesting to see if any of this stuff makes it into the zero ETL database, or whether that's evolving along with, because it's going to bring in a whole new stream of data that's a different, that also needs to be stored somewhere. Its conversations and interactions with customers needs to be managed sensibly. So yeah, interesting to see what happens there.
Is it maybe almost a follow-up episode around zero ETL and how it's evolved? Because we know, because we've been working with it for a while, but there have been new data tables added to it, which have been very useful. So yes, really good point.
Okay.
We're down to and we did briefly mention this one as well, the AI guardrails. Let's just take a quick look at that and see if there's anything else to mention. But Amazon Q and Connect now enable customers to natively configure AI guardrails to implement safeguards based on their use cases. So filter harmful and inappropriate responses, redact sensitive personal information, limit incorrect information. On the face of it, all sounds like really useful stuff that you definitely want to be doing if you're sort of exposing that Gen AI capability to your end customers.
Yeah, definitely. It's so interesting. It's the whole thing about hallucination, and it's a weird term anyway, but the fact you have to do it at all is kind of interesting. You sort of you create a bot around a particular knowledge base, but then you have to go and you'd think that would be enough to be like, well, it's about this knowledge base, right? So just answer the things around the knowledge base, but it's not enough. So then you have to write this sort of privacy guardrails, and then how do you know the privacy guardrails are working? What if, do you need guardrails around your guardrails? But yeah, this is not specific to AWS, right? These are the challenges for everybody at the moment in AI. So it's kind of interesting following along. It's for those of us like building AI solutions today, this stuff is interesting, but also quite evolving quite fast. So it's good to see AWS come in with these guardrails. I think I think it would really have struggled to get off the ground for customer interaction without them. I think this is a really good thing they can point at and say, look, this is what we're doing to make sure the interactions with customers are safe. And also you have agency over setting those up, and you get to say what goes in them. So I think that's kind of smart as well as sensible. Yeah.
Yes, agreed. Yeah. We've got a couple around. So one thing that, well, since way back when Connect was released, a few people have mentioned that it would be great to support external voice transfers without making a full-on PSTN call to do it. And
Yes.
you can see how that's a really useful use case. We have lots of customers that do external transfers to other places for some reason.
Yep.
And maybe it's that you want to transfer from Connect or use the IVR capability of Connect, but then transfer to an existing on-premises solution that you might have a session border controller in front of. That is something that is now supported. So Amazon Connect now supports external voice. Let's pick out the key points around that. It integrates with other voice systems to directly transfer voice calls and metadata, which is quite a key, useful point, I think, without using the public telephone network. So yeah, that point about metadata is an interesting one, because at the moment, if you make that PSTN transfer, unless you're setting up something around maybe an intermediary database where you're putting metadata into it from one system and then passing over to the next, that metadata is lost when you do the transfer.
Yep.
So that's quite interesting to know.
So this is SIP call transfer, presumably. I don't know either, because we're reading this for the same time for the first time. But like SBCs and I guess transferring calls from one contact center to another, either within a company or externally. I like the example they give, which is interesting, is that like their IVR is better than your IVR. So like use Amazon Connect's IVR to do like the natural language processing, to do speech recognition, to do deflection, whatever. But then when you want to actually get to a person, then you could transfer it back into your existing contact center. If you don't want to go through all the pain of rip and replace your existing contact center, but you do want to bring it a little bit into the 21st century, you could use sort of the Amazon Connect IVR features and essentially run two contact centers and go bounce from one to the next, which is interesting.
Yeah, definitely can see the use case there. One thing we should probably point out on this one, just taking a look at it, is I think it is geared towards more of the larger enterprise customer, I would say.
Okay, based on pricing?
Yeah, so based on pricing. So we've got a new section on the Connect pricing website, and there's external voice transfer has been added, and it talks about it, first of all, very generously, the first 4 million minutes of transfer calls are included, and then after that, after the 4 million minutes, it's half a cent per minute. However, there is the cost of, you need a connector. So you need to, you pay for the first connector, which includes your 4 million minutes. Any other connectors after that to different systems, and presumably this is from a single Connect instance. Any other connector, they're free after that. The first connector, though, is $40,000 a month. So
it's quite expensive.
It's quite chunky, isn't it?
A lot of bot IVR development you could do somewhere else, but yeah, okay.
But yeah, hence me saying definitely geared towards the sort of larger end of the market, and I guess that's understandable. It's probably they're the customers that may have been really pushing for it.
Yeah, I suppose so. I'm curious. Yes, I actually thought this was a fairly blatant land grab for other contact centers, because like make it a little bit easier to begin that migration journey almost on the fly, or sort of in secret almost, by putting the IVR functionality in front of your existing contact center, get that up and running, and then wouldn't it be easy just to move a couple of agents at a time across and just not have to do that transfer out for particular queues? And actually, rather than sort of rip and replace a contact center, do a very gradual migration move, but maybe not at $40,000 a month. Fairly expensive migration project.
Yeah, potentially. I guess we'll have to run some numbers on it and figure out where it makes sense. I'm sure it does make sense to some big customers and in certain use cases. But that one is really interesting anyway, and good that AWS, as always, seem to be taking on board customer feedback and introducing that kind of thing.
All I was going to say, I don't know if you know whether it's two-way. Can you transfer in, or is it just transfer out?
That is a really good question, and I don't know. We'll have to come back on that.
We're gonna have to hunt down somebody in AWS who knows all about this stuff and get them on, so we can really go deep and just understand everything about this. I think so. It'd be good to try and find that person. If you're that person and you're listening, do let us know, because I think if we've got questions, I'm sure other people have questions too.
Yeah, it'd be great to dig into that external voice one. And I was going to say, linking on to the next point is Amazon Connect Contact Lens now supports external voice. So linked to the same thing about the connector and everything, but potential use cases, maybe have an existing contact center, or you're already on Connect, but you have another contact center that hasn't already migrated. you want to take advantage of all the great contact lens functionality that you have in Connect, but with your other legacy contact center. If you were to set up the connector, you could then start to use contact lens with your existing voice system.
Yeah, this is really smart. I think this is definitely like a bit of a pain point for doing migrations. Kind of you get to the end of the migration project and they're like, great, this is all really good. This is what we wanted, but we've got all these recordings from our previous system. What do we do with them? And that's a bit of a tricky one to answer. Like, we have solutions for it, but they're all kind of separated. Being able to just pop them into a bucket and be like, give it 24 hours or however long it's going to take, and then they'll show up in contact lens alongside all the calls you're making on your new contact center. I think that's really clever.
Yeah,
As well as actually, so I was going to say the example they give for even before you do the migration, to take a whole bunch of recordings, put them into contact lens, because then you can do like all sorts of analysis. I'm presumably, just do some analytics, do some insights and stuff before you even start moving people, so you kind of get a feel for how it's going to run.
Yeah, definitely. I really love the idea of, because like you say, there are solutions for doing this anyway within AWS, but not necessarily for having it all within Connect, within the same same UI.
You're right. That's the real value. Like transcribing the call, working out the sentiment, like that's stuff you can do elsewhere, right? But yeah, absolutely, having it in the same contact list, like the same list of results and the same database and the same filters and the same search, that stuff's really useful. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, agreed. What else? We've got, there's two more main ones to mention if we quickly whiz through those. I really love this one because it is something that we've spoken about quite a lot to customers lately. And again, there's a solution for it, but it doesn't have it sort of or have all the recordings natively within the Connect console. Connect now provides the ability to record the audio during the IVR leg of the interaction. Great for self-service, obviously. So if you're using some of the more integrated bot capability in your IVR, excellent that it's come alongside being able to record that part of the interaction as well.
That is interesting. I wonder how that came about, because there's part of you've like, well, surely you can just look at the outcomes of the text. It's stored, like, but there must have been some level of like, we want to know that this customer is screaming at their IVR and they can't get it to work, and we want to review that. Like, we want to review that call because we thought it was quite good, but like they keep falling through to the default setting, and we want to understand why or something. But yeah, interesting.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it just adds that additional layer of insight into what's going on. And if you're pointing people towards automating more and more of their interactions, being able to go in and listen to those, it seems like it would be a no-brainer. You'd want to go in and do the same sort of level of quality monitoring that you do on your agent to customer calls.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. And potentially for sort of legal reasons as well. Like, I'm no expert, but the more and more you put into IVRs and use that for data entry, essentially, like if there's a mistake in that and in processing that, you kind of want to always go back to the source and the original to see what happened.
Yeah, really good point. Yeah, because we've had it with customers recently where they've wanted to have a particular, signing up to some sort of statement or something, and doing that within the IVR, or acknowledging a compliance statement, that kind of thing. Being able to hear the whole context around it, not just the automated assistant says this happened. That's I think that's really
yeah, definitely cool.
And then the last one, this also feels like it could be a whole podcast on its own. I'm really keen to hear some more about this, but AWS announced the preview of Salesforce Contact Center with Amazon Connect. So it's interesting to hear that. Maybe it's kind of, because we know about the Amazon Connect and Salesforce CTI adapter. We know about Service Cloud Voice, and we've mentioned those on previous episodes. It sounds like this might be the new iteration of that. We know that those bring you some really nice capabilities across your Connect and your Salesforce platforms. So very interested to see what else this brings and in which areas they've sort of tightened that integration.
Yeah, definitely. When I saw this, I was like, well, don't we? Yeah, like as you say, don't we have the connector already? We're like, what actually does this bring? But thinking about it, so much has happened since that connector came out in terms of the AI, the queue, like all the the self-service stuff. Yeah, the extra channels. Like there's so much innovation that's happened. It kind of does make sense that we do like another version of that. And this is this kind of sounds a bit like it might be that. So yeah, definitely exciting.
Yeah, that's a good point. It was, I guess, probably overdue a bit of a revamp, really. So the CTI adapter, like you say, lots of extra functionality has been released, but probably didn't have. I mean, you think about the Amazon queue in Connect. I never thought that, because in the Salesforce integration, you just have the sort of embedded CCP in the bottom right hand side. It didn't give a lot of sort of screen real estate to what was going on in queue. So yeah, it would be great to see how that's addressed.
Definitely. So be interesting to see whether is that with a new name or what. The cynic-y marketing sixth sense in me is wondering if like that's the reason it's not called Connector V2 is because it's an opportunity to call it something else and rebrand it and maybe price it differently. So I'll have to see how that comes out. But yeah.
We'll have to keep your cynicism in check and see what it's actually like.
For now, it's the preview. So if you want to join the preview,
Yeah.
you can, and that's probably the best time to try it before they figure out what to charge for it. So there's a link. We'll put a link to all of the things that we talked about, actually, like jumping off points to the AWS blog. But there's a link there for signing up to that preview. That's just in preview at the moment. But it's all super exciting. Right, we've gone very long, but that's okay because there has been an awful lot to talk about. As you can tell, we're still digesting the news. It's all very fresh. We'll dig into it more over the kind of coming weeks and months, as well as all the other things that didn't make the cut this episode. There's plenty to talk about. And we're going to go and try and hunt down the relative experts in those areas as well and bring them here to help explain them to you as well. Alex, thank you ever so much for your time. It's been fantastic to have you go through these with us and really sort of understand, and just it's been good to take the time actually, rather than just sort of rushing through. It's so easy sometimes to rush through the announcements, but it's been good to have a couple of minutes on each one just to talk them through, I think.
Yeah, great. Yeah, thanks, Tom.
We're nearly at the end of the podcast, but before we went, what we really wanted to do was bring you some of the atmosphere of reInvent. Now, Alex and I weren't there, but somebody who was there is our colleague, Nancy Van Delist, and she is able to join us now. Nancy, how's it going? How are the feet?
It is going great. I did buy special sneakers for the event. Well, I didn't buy special sneakers. I just bought nice looking sneakers, as my other ones were a bit old. But I did manage to get about 20,000 steps yesterday, which is fantastic because it meant I did not have to go to the gym and get my exercise in.
I don't think anybody goes to reInvent for the week and also goes to the gym, so don't worry. Don't beat yourself up, honestly.
There is a 5K that is hosted every year as part of reInvent. So there's a group of attendees that go running on the streets of Vegas. They did that Wednesday morning. So the event is amazing. I've seen numbers ranging from 60,000 to 70,000 people that are all on site. And it does feel quite busy. That said, I've now attended all three of the big cloud conferences, Microsoft's, Google's, and now Amazon's. And I'll have to say Amazon's does feel the most well executed in terms of the logistics that I'm seeing. I've been quite impressed with everything from the quality of the sessions, the app that AWS has made available for you to navigate the event, attend additional sessions that you may not have planned to. But they have also augmented that with people. They have people stationed, at least 2 outside of every single session, an additional, handful at every corner. At no time during the event do you feel like you don't know what to do, because you can always walk up to somebody and ask them a question. And as of yet, I have not run into anybody who has told me they don't know or they've had to go find the answer. They always know the answer to the question that I've asked. So quite impressive. I wish they had that same level of support for the Vegas tourism, because I have gotten lost walking and navigating just the streets a little bit. But definitely
you get totally reliant on the t-shirt people. So, you know what I mean? Like they know their stuff. They're so good, and they're The
important question, Nancy: have you made it to the expo hall yet? And what's the best swag that you've got so far?
I have made it to the expo hall. lots of really, really cool booths. One of the booths I saw had race car driving, another one had virtual snowboarding. So really lots of cool booths. They even have some theaters inside of there. They have the AWS Village, which has the booths from lots of different AWS services, including Amazon Connect and Amazon Q and Connect. The coolest swag I've gotten so far, maybe a little plug for a potential partner, but they gave me some socks and a really cool coloring book. So that'll be something I can keep myself busy on the airplane.
That's a good idea. I thought you were going to say that's gifts for home sorted, but like, yeah, whichever, like, or just on the fly home, whatever. For us here, we see all the numbers around the number of people and like the logistics, and it's very hard to imagine. But even stuff like food, like what's that like? What's getting lunch like? Because presumably everybody has the same lunch break period, right?
Right, exactly. They do have, because they have different hotels, right? There's the Wynn, there's a Venetian, there's Caesars, there's MGM. So there's multiple hotels involved in the conference, and there you can find breakfast, lunch, and snacks, as well as constant refills of coffee and tea and water at all of the different locations. But lunch, the food has been another kind of logistical feat from what I have seen. You walk into the hall and they have typically people lined up pointing you to where you need to go. So they route you to the very last buffet line. And then as people come in, they start bringing them forward. And then as things clear out, they do that again. So they basically have used humans just as like their traffic flow and to manage that. So it's really quite impressive. The food has been, I would say, honestly, like, conference food is always meh, lots of sandwiches, but here every day they have a different theme. So yesterday was Latin cuisine. And the day before that was like Asian cuisine. So lots of different options, lots of vegetarian and gluten-free options. So very conscious for different people with different dietary backgrounds and needs. So amazing food, really amazing food.
Does it feel, because obviously you're there sort of for Amazon Connect, and that's sort of the stuff we're really interested in, but obviously that's one part of like a ginormous AWS soup. Is there a sort of defined Connect area, or the sessions, are they all in a particular, like how does that work, and how does that feel kind of in amongst the whole big thing? What's
Yeah, really interesting question. That's something that we actually have talked about with a couple of Amazon employees. The Amazon Connect sessions are not in a single track. And
that's where the 20,000 steps comes in, right?
Exactly. And it's not all in the same venue. So, and sometimes they are, there's like a 30-minute gap between, or sometimes they're even back to back at different venues. So attending all of the Amazon Connect sessions is pretty difficult to do, but you can attend quite a few of them. You just really have to plan out your day and prioritize. I will say that I think this kind of speaks to the maturity and the adoption of the platform, but the number of Amazon Connect sessions now is probably the most that they've ever had, as would probably be expected given the age of the product. But what's really interesting is hearing that some of the speakers who, one of the speakers yesterday, director of product management for Amazon Connect, Kevin Ma, he was telling us about how he did a session 7 years ago for Amazon Connect. And at the time he asked, who in here knows Amazon Connect? And no hands went up. It was a room full of software developers who were like, why am I here? What is Amazon Connect? Thinking it was a different product. Now you go into a room and ask, who knows about Amazon Connect? All the hands go up. And then who's using Amazon Connect? It's still a good portion of the people in the room whose hands go up. So really a testament to like the adoption and the growth of the product that I'm seeing in these sessions.
We're going to let you go in a minute because it's kind of the start of your day. But before we do, what does your day look like today? Just so everyone gets a kind of feel for what Thursday on at reInvent looks like.
Today, I'm headed over to the Venetian to start off with. There's the keynote with Dr. Werner Vogels. And then I have a mix of sessions that are dealing with partner enhancements and partner type, programs, and Amazon Connect insights and customer stories. So, and then sprinkled in between, I'll pop into the expo and walk around. As you know, I'm a walking billboard. I have a backpack with an LED screen built into it. So any chance I get to turn that on, walk around and show it off a little bit, I'm taking advantage of.
That's been a good conversation start.
Yeah, we should teach you up with the podcast URL in it, but too late now. And then anything fun planned for this evening, or are you just going to crash, sleep, and do Friday?
So tonight is a big end of conference party, the replay party. They're showcasing Weezer and another DJ. There's going to be roller skating and a AI drawing game, competing in Giant 4. So lots of cool stuff planned for tonight. I do plan on checking out the party, making my way around, and meeting some other participants.
Awesome. Sounds fantastic. Thank you ever so much for taking time out of what I know is a super busy week. Thanks very much for talking to us.
Thanks, Nancy.
Thanks so much for having me. Great to see you guys.
See you soon.
Alex and I are going to carry on talking after we finish recording, I'm sure. But for now, it's time to bring this episode to an end. Thank you all very much for listening. Be sure to subscribe in your favorite podcast player. That way you won't miss the next episode. Whilst you're there, we'd love it if you would rate and review us. And as a new podcast, if you have colleagues that you think would benefit from this content, please let them know. To find out more about how Cloud Interact can help you on your contact center journey, visit cloudinteract.io. We're wrapping this call up now, and we'll connect with you next time.